I was born in 1778. Now that was right in the middle of the American Revolution. You folks have heard about that, I guess, even though it's before your time. That's when we fought for independence against, now, who was that again? Great Britain? Yeah, I thought so. You're a little hesitant to say that. I hope you knew that. Now, 4 years after I was born, my father, who fought with General George Rogers Clark, you might have heard of him too, had something to do with Paducah, you know, but he was killed in 1882 by the Indians. He was fighting against the Indians and others. And now let's fast forward 30 years. We're now in the year 1812. Now, I think you might have heard that we had another war there, and it was conveniently called the War of 1812. And of course, we were fighting once again the British. But this time, the British had some allies, which were the Indians. I know we should call them Native Americans, but we called them Indians back then, so I'll call it that. When we heard about that, by the way, I came from Woodford County. Now, Woodford County, let me go to the next slide. Here we are. Woodford County is located right about in the central part of Kentucky. Of course, it wasn't Kentucky when I was born back then, because Kentucky wasn't formed until 1792. But anyway, I came from that area. And when we heard, we Kentuckians in central Kentucky by Georgetown area, heard about this war, we wanted to do something about it. We heard that the British, not only coming across the Atlantic, but coming down from Canada, and they were going to capture Fort Detroit in the Michigan Territory. Well, we were riled up about that. We were going to get those redcoats. And so we gathered together 2,000 men, and we formed companies. And I might say, I'm very proud to say I was elected a captain of one of those companies. My name was Virgil McCracken. Now, when we did that, we had to gather our own weapons, our own food, our own uniforms, everything, and we were going to march over to Detroit area. Now that's about 350 miles from where I was, maybe 400 even. And we were going by foot. So it's going to take a while. We started in July of 1812. Well, we hightailed it, we got to the Ohio River. And when we got there, we crossed it, and there was a little village there called, a little tiny village called Cincinnati. And at that point, we heard that the British had already captured Fort Detroit. Well, that even riled us up some more. So we marched on through swamps, which were infested with mosquitoes. We did a little detour up to Indiana, where we joined with General William Henry Harrison. He gave us some supplies and a few more men. And then we moved on up to the Detroit area. Well, this is where we wound up. It took a little bit longer than we thought. We thought we were going to win this war in a couple of weeks. Well, by January, we were up in that Detroit area. We never actually got to Detroit, though. We got to an area called Frenchtown, as you can see right over here, on Lake Erie, or close to Lake Erie. Now, at that point, that Frenchtown was formed by Frenchmen who were traders, and it was on the River Raisin, and that is where we met the British. We were outnumbered. We didn't have the right clothing. We didn't expect to be on that long. There was 2 feet of snow on the ground. The Indians were fighting with the British, so we were pretty outnumbered, and we didn't have much equipment. Well, they fought valiantly, my men. I fought alongside them. Unfortunately, I was killed in that battle, but that's another story. Now, the people who weren't killed, the men who weren't killed, were left behind in Frenchtown. The wounded were, I should say, and the ones who were able to walk were prisoners of war and sent on to with the British and the Indians. They were supposed to be prisoners of war, but most of them couldn't even make it, so they were killed along the way. Then the British, how nice they were, they kind of encouraged the Indians to go back to Frenchtown and massacre the wounded. They burned the cabins, they scalped the wounded. Needless to say, many of all of them actually died at that point. Now, because of this, Kentucky, when it became a state, decided to do something about that. So they, first thing, in Frankfurt, they have erected in Frankfurt Cemetery this beautiful monument about the river raising, as you can see here. And here's another section of it where my name is proudly displayed there. Also names of some other people. This man, Bland Ballard. Now, he actually survived the battle and lived to be 91 years old. You might have heard of his name before, but we'll get into him too. But also, others that died there were Major Benjamin Franklin Graves, right up there, myself here, and Captain Paschal Hickman. Now, because of their bravery, Kentuckians fought the rest of the war and had the slogan, "Remember the River Raisin." And Kentucky decided to dedicate the names of 9 counties after people who fought and died in that battle. 4 of them, which are right here in western Kentucky. This is an original document which shows the names of the killed, Virgil McCracken and Paschal Hickman. And then over here it says wounded, Major Benjamin Graves. Now you might think, well, he was wounded. He died, didn't he? Those Indians scalped him, took care of him. So all of these people died. Now, we eventually got this section where you're sitting right now, western Kentucky. A man by the name of General Andrew Jackson, along with our first governor, Isaac Shelby, made a little pact where they were going to negotiate with the Chickasaw Indians. So General Jackson purchased this land from the Chickasaw Indians. And you might have heard that this whole section, including parts of Tennessee, they called it the Jackson Purchase, appropriately. And that was in 1818, just 200 years ago. Became official 200 years ago this year, 1819. Now watch what happened to the Chickasaw territory. As you know, that this part here would be like the Tennessee River, the Ohio River, the Mississippi River, and that's the borderline now with Tennessee. Well, they first decided to name the whole dad-bling thing Hickman County, after Captain Paschal Hickman. But as things started to change, they started cutting into Hickman County a little bit. If you know anything about Hickman County today, it's not that big. Watch what happened. Oh, they took a big chunk to become Calloway County. Now Calloway County, now Richard Calloway was not in the River Raisin War. No, he was actually a cohort of Daniel Boone, who helped establish Boonesboro. So they named it after him. Then, Hickman County is going to get smaller. Oh, there goes Graves County. Graves named after Captain Paschal, Paschal Graves, Major General Benjamin Franklin Graves. Guess who comes next? Yes, McCracken County. Named after, now let's see, who was that guy? What's my name? Virgil. Oh, yeah, I know McCracken. Virgil McCracken. Captain Virgil McCracken to you people. Now, I want you to notice something. Look at McCracken County up there. The county seat was Wilmington. Wilmington flooded a lot. And eventually they had to move the seat to this new town called Pekin, which eventually became known as Paducah, I believe. But watch McCracken County's size, because the next development cut McCracken County in half. Now Ballard County took a big chunk of McCracken County, and that's the size we are today. But yet, we're not finished. As the man in the commercial would say, but wait, there's more. All right? Because Hickman County, look at the size of Hickman County here, from where it started. But we're not through. Next came Fulton County down here, named after Robert Fulton, who invented the steamboat. And then up here, you've got Marshall County, which cut in half Calloway County. And it was named after John Marshall, who was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, who had died a few years before. Now you think, well, we're finished. No, we're not. Who knows what's left? Carlisle County, of course. Named after John G. Carlisle, who was the Secretary of Treasury under of Grover Cleveland, but also was the Speaker of the House, like Nancy is today. Anyway, but he was a little different. So this is how it looks today. And this is how McCracken County got to be McCracken County. Now, I'm going to switch gears now because we're going to talk about something else. So I have to be a different character. So let me change. And as I do, I'm going to change my character. I was born in 1825. Now, 1825 was the same year that McCracken County was formed. A little connection there. Now, when McCracken County was born in when I was born in 1825, I was born in Robertson County, Tennessee. Now, Robertson County, Tennessee, is pretty far from here. Eventually, I decided to forget my coat. I knew my tricorn, my coat, I tell you. Anyway, I decided to move where the land was a little cheaper. Now, some research says that originally I went to a place called Grahamville in McCracken County. I haven't really verified that yet, even though my memory's not too sharp anymore. But I eventually moved to this higher spot in McCracken County. I didn't want to go where the river gets flooded all the time. So here I am. And my name is Dr. You know my name? Pepper. Oh, yeah, but you know my name. And I'm not a drink either. Dr. William Conley Pepper, if you please. All right? Now, I was a physician. And during the war, the Civil War, I was drafted, 1863, for the Union forces to be a field surgeon, or as the men used to call me, Sawbones. I think you know why they called the doctors Sawbones, thanks to Mr. Gangrene. When that was over, by that time, I was ready. The next year, the year the war ended, I had a daughter born, Annie. Now, before that, 10 years before, I had a son. We called him W.T., William Thomas. Well, we called him W.T. So now I had my family, and I bought some acreage in this higher spot over here. By the way, this is an actual picture of Dr. Pepper. I know I look a little different. I shaved my beard and, you know, lost a little weight and not reading the paper in the yard anymore, but that is really Dr. Pepper. So if you ever want to see the real story, there he is right there. Now, let me give you an idea, thanks to Mr. Bertram over there, I wouldn't have known this, where my 100-acre farm was located. Now, I've put it on a modern map here. You see Lone Oak Road here. You know, this is Lovelaceville Road. This is Cambridge Drive, cut up to the ball field, and back down to North Concord area. This whole chunk was my land. Now, I was a doctor, but I was also a businessman. And I decided to do something about this. There weren't any mills in the area. They were too far for the local farmers, corn, wheat, things like that. So I decided to build a mill. Now this map, again, Mr. Bertram over here drew this map for me a long time ago to give you some ideas what things look like. But I'll get back to that later on because I don't want to overwhelm you right now. But you will see a big lake over here off of what's now Lovelaceville Road, which was called Pepper Lake. And my mill was located right by the lake, and it was called Pepper's Mill. I won't tell you any more right now, but here's thanks to Miss Kay Holland, my great-great-granddaughter, she let me use this picture of the mill. This is the only picture we've known of the mill right over here. And what were they having over here? Look at all those people in the water. What do you think they were doing? Swimming? With their clothes on? What was it? Baptism, right. We had a Baptist church locally up the road a piece. And that was one of their big baptisms. And this is the only picture that I know of which actually shows this tall tree here, which eventually became known as the Lone Oak. I don't have a better picture, but that's the best we have. Now in the wintertime, like now, we could use the lake. I call it a pond, they called it a lake, with ice skating, for example. Now, here is my grave. I'm resting at Mount Kenton Cemetery, just up the road a little bit, with my wife and my children and my neighbors and friends. Now, there was a school right down the road, aptly called the Pepper School. And between the school and the mill and what eventually became this Pepper House, which was W.T.'s house, that became the hub of the community. Everybody would gather around there for different things like pie suppers and the ice skating and baptisms and spelling bees and all kinds of things like that back in the 1880s. Now, I started that mill in 1875. Now, I eventually turned it over, the operation over to W.T., my son. He was a much better businessman than I was. And here is a stencil. I asked the children if they knew what a stencil was. They knew right away what it was. Stencil that went on top of one of my barrels. Now, it said McCracken County, and of course, W.C. Pepper. And it says Bayou Mills, but everybody called it Pepper's Mills. This is W.T., my son, the one who took over the operation of the plant, and his wife. This is W.T.'s house. It was built in the early 1880s. It is said to be the oldest, well, not anymore, but it was the oldest and first residence, private residence, in the area we now call Lone Oak. As I said, unfortunately, it's not there anymore. Miss Kay was raised in that house, as was many other Peppers. But as you can see here, see these gables on here? If you look behind the mill, you can see the house right behind there. Today, this beautiful house is taken over by this thing. Mr. Carpenter, would you tell him what that is now? It used to be Meyers Lumber.
Yes, it used to be Meyers Lumber. Now has tenacity training in it, which is American Ninja Warrior training, and then part is baseball and softball instruction by Mr. the Dolphins.
Did you ever think that where you were born and raised would be, maybe not born but raised, would be a sports center there? Kind of a sports center anyway. Anyway, W.T. was kind of smart. I don't know if he foresaw the future. I don't know. But he sold the mill to J.J. Sanderson. J.J. had it for a while, used it as tobacco rehandling center. And then in 1887, you know what happened? A cyclone came through and destroyed that big 3-story building. Now, Sanderson continued in the community to operate a tobacco facility in Lone Oak until 1904, and then he moved it down to that other city, Paducah. And there's J.J.'s grave. He's a neighbor of mine in the cemetery, by the way. Now, to give you a better perspective of where everything is, here's the map, but better yet, this is Lovelaceville Road. And I always told the children, you'd know where everything is because I'll describe it by way of restaurants. They know food. So first thing I said is, do you know where Wendy's is? Yes! Okay, well, Wendy's would be up here somewhere. So they got the idea where it was. Come down to Lovelaceville Road. Here's that, I call it Meyers Lumber, whatever it's called now. That was that spot where W.T.'s house was. Now right next to Meyers Lumber, I'm going to call it, right next to it is this big electrical generating plant. Is anybody familiar with that? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. That is the spot where the mill was. That exact spot. So next time, I tell this to the children, next time you go by and see that, picture that big 3-story mill that was once there. And right next to the mill, what was right next to the mill? A lake, right, Pepper's Lake, right? Baptism and all. Now we have apartments there. And if you ever see those apartments, drive down that little drive there and you'll notice it goes way down because that was part of the bottom of the lake. So that was a whole lake. This is Pepper Lane over here, aptly named. Now, this is one of the only pictures I know of that lake. It was made in the 1930s. You can see through a window across the street. There's what's left of the lake. It was a lot bigger than that at one time. But this was taken at, oh, the house disappeared. Well, it was right here. How imagine that? Anyway, this is what it looks like today. And these are those apartments which now occupy this space right here. Again, when you go by, think about that when you see those apartments and think, what was there? A huge lake. It's hard to imagine that now. Now, everybody, I always tell the kids, they're familiar with the ball field. They know about it. Well, this is the ball field from the distance, and you know where the tennis courts are? And you know where the Lions Club is? Let me get where I can see it here. Oh, let's see. It's off just a little bit here. Here it is, Lions Club right here. There's a street called, help me out here, Terry, Chase. Greenway Chase, thank you. Greenway Chase, yep. Yeah, I knew it was Chase. Greenway Chase, and that's this street right here, which empties to a cul-de-sac. And if you ever driven up Greenway Chase, you go uphill. And you go uphill until you get to the top, and there's a beautiful top part there, and you see, well, not what you used to see anyway. But that's where my house, Dr. Pepper's house was. My Dr. Pepper, not WT's, Dr. Pepper's house was. I could overlook everything from up there. I could see the mill. I could see my apple orchard. I could see all kinds of things from up there. And as I said to Mr. Terry over there, that, you know, that man, we drove by there one day, and the man was working in his yard up there. I said, I bet he doesn't know he's living on historical property. Bet he didn't know that. Now, the ball field. That whole section of the ball field towards the back was once my apple orchard. All big apple orchard, which I used, you know, the apples to sell at the mill, could make cider with it, just sell them like they were. It's a big apple orchard. And the kids especially like this. That little creek that runs through the center of it. Everybody familiar with that little creek? At one time, I was told that that was an Indian path. The Indians would travel up and down there from about Lone Oak Road, where about North Concord is, on down that way. And wear and tear on that eventually made it a little bit deeper, and eventually nature took over and made it a creek. So I tell the kids, next time you play in that creek, think about the Indians that traveled back and forth on that. Now let's talk about education in Pepper's Mill. Here is Pepper's School, or at least what it looked like. And Pepper's School was not just a school. It was also, on Sundays, guess what it was? A church. And during the week, other than school, it was a community center. So between the school and the mill and the house, WT's house, that's where most of the activity in what's now Lone Oak had happened. It was located right here at the entrance of Cambridge Drive. I'm going to proud because I'm proud. It's my son's house is right here. I bet you didn't know, Jack and Nora, that where your house is, there was this old school there at one time. Yep. Now, the school eventually got too small as we grew, and so they built another school called Kentucky Western College. It wasn't exactly a college, but it was a private school. It was, anybody in the community could go there for free. But if you were outside of the community in another county, you had to pay a fee to get there. And we call it a college, but I also tell the kids this. Look over here. I see some slides. I can't picture college kids going down a slide. It was all grade levels. But they introduced courses such as trigonometry, which are higher level courses, and that's why they called it a college. Formed in 1888 by Professor, I don't know if he really was a professor, but that's what he went by, Professor Joe Ragsdale, who, by the way, formed the first McCracken County High School out in Heath. Yeah, not Lone Oak. They were vying for it here in Lone Oak, but he went out to Heath, and Heath actually became the first McCracken County High School for a while. And this right now, if you're wondering the location of it, is located right about where Friendship Baptist Church is today. And in other words, right about over here would be Darriette. So we're facing Lone Oak Road. All right? Interesting how we talk about Friendship Baptist Church and how things changed. This picture is another picture of the school, and I'm proud to say my granddaughter by marriage, my granddaughter-in-law, I guess you'd call it, Miss Annie. Is this her? Yeah, that's her right there in the graduating class in 1905. Now, it operated for several years until 1919, when it became Lone Oak High School. Yep, that was the original Lone Oak High School, right there, where Friendship Baptist is today. Beautiful old building, but every time I tell this to the children, they say, again? It caught on fire. Yeah, as you'll see a lot of buildings did back then. This little girl is sitting, what was her name, Terry? You know? Was she related to you? I'm putting you on the spot. Never mind, I'll go on. But anyway, this little girl's sitting on a sidewalk in front of Western Kentucky College. This is across the street. This is Lone Oak Road over here. And you see a couple of buildings here where CBS is now. This was the original Methodist church before it actually was built on the spot where Western Kentucky Western College is now. And then it became Friendship Baptist. This tree is interesting. Even though it's not the lone oak tree, it is a lone oak tree. I call it the second lone oak tree because that big tall tree was there, oak was there by itself. You know where it's located? Can you guess? Hardees. Right where Hardees is now, in the corner where Hardees is. And that lone oak tree was right across the street from Lone Oak High School, right? Well, during a bad storm, a bolt of lightning flashed and destroyed that tree. And the kids, thinking, coming up with a mascot name, let's call it the Flash. So that's where the Flash comes from. Amazing. Now, here is the graduating class, or at least the boys, of the graduating class in 1924, all 5 of them. They're standing next to Kentucky Western College, when it was still there. Now, it burned, as I said. As you know, it's going to burn. And then around 1926, they opened the new high school. They could expand it more. There's more room down the road a little bit. And this is what it looked like in 1927. Notice the entrance here. Now, you know where the entrance is today of the middle school. There's a big chunk missing here, isn't there? A lot of room for expansion. And the gymnasium was down over here, not in back of it like it is now. Now, we're going to kind of quickly go through Lone Oak High School to see in the decades how it changed. So here we are in 1927. Now look what happened between 27 and 37. See that big addition? 47 look pretty much the same. 57. And Mr. Rushing, I used some old Lone Oak High School yearbooks for these. Then 1967. Now, were you there, Mr. Rushing, during the fires of 71 and 72? Maybe you can explain a little bit better than I can. What happened in those 2 fires?
Well, in the first one, right after the first of the year, and it was called, called Boys Set It on Fire.
Oh, I did not know that.
And then we came over here and with the middle school, and we had afternoon classes, and the middle school had early classes. We utilized the 2 buildings. Glenn Dexter was principal at the time, and he feared for his life because of all the bird books that was not where they were supposed to be in the school. And some of us went in, not supposed to get them, but we got the books so we could protect our principal and make sure that the bird books, because they were the attendance.
Attendance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Attendance books.
That's what,
Yeah, that's important.
But anyway, it caught the second time, and it's been through a lot of renovations.
So it was about 3 months or so later when it caught fire again, from what I read. So, I mean, we had 2 devastating fires right there in Lone Oak High School. These, I know you probably can't see them too well, but these are some pictures of the inside and the outside of the school during that time. Now we move on to 1977, and then eventually 1997, and 2013, as they called it, the final chapter, where they moved on out to the new McCracken County High School. And I don't just mean because it's new. There was an old McCracken County High School at Heath at one time. And then now, 100 years later, it's now the middle school. Now, how many know this place over here? I bet a lot of you snuck into that place, right? Yeah, Johnstons, which they sold what? Hamburgers, shakes, fries, things like that. Talk about nickel cokes. Talk about an entrepreneur who knew what he was doing. He puts a store like that, or a restaurant like that, right between the high school and the middle school. Duh, what do teenagers like to do? Eat. So after school, they'd all congregate there, and some, Mr. Rushing, you probably know this, might have snuck out during lunchtime and come on over there. Yeah, just a few. Now here's a class of 63, all crowded into Johnston's grocery here. Now in case you're wondering the exact location, you know where the greenhouse is, right up in the parking lot here. Right next to it is a big concrete slab. And that's where it was. And next time you go past that, you'll know. Yeah, right up front here is that greenhouse, and right there. I talked to the kids about entrepreneurship. They know about it, and fantastic decision to do that. What? Did you go there?
No, but I'm going to tell you something about that restaurant right there. Well, Mr. Johnson, in I think it was 1970 something, he decided he didn't want to run it anymore, so my husband and I ran it.
Oh!
And we called it Doomers.
Oh!
Was the name of it. And my husband had cancer, and then he was still working at that time, but we were there. And we loved the kids. I mean, we had more fun with them.
So it wasn't called Doomers because it was the students doomed to come over there to cut class or something.
That's what my daughter and her best friend named it Doomers. And we ran it for, I guess about a year, maybe there. And
interesting.
We had the kids, they came over every morning. Yeah.
Do you know how long it was there until when it closed? Were you there when it closed, or did somebody else operate after that?
I don't think anybody else operated after
Okay.
The school board bought it.
What?
Oh, about what time, you know?
I can't remember the year.
Well, probably in the late 70s, early 80s or something like that, probably.
It was in the early 70s.
But it was a great place to have a store like that.
Oh, it was fun.
After the board bought it, I had classes over there. I taught my education classes.
Whoa, okay.
We were really uptown.
Now, let's talk a little bit about a man named Doc Potts. Has anybody ever heard of him? Well, Doc Potts was one of the early families of Pepper's Mill. And by 1900, he became the postmaster of the newly formed post office. But the town had to have a name. A lot of folks didn't care for Pepper's Mill. I don't know if it's because they saw Pepper's Farm, Pepper's this, Pepper's that, and they got tired of Pepper, I don't know. But anyway, Doc Potts decided to give it another name. Now, from what I understand, he opened the first store in Lonoke in 1890, Pepper's Mill, in 1899, which he later sold to a woman named Mrs. Margaret Sanderson, probably related to the other Sandersons. But he was sitting in his store one day, and he said that the lone oak was the only tree he could see from inside the store without getting up. I don't know if he was lazy or what, but that's what he saw. But it wasn't just that reason that we have lone oak today. I mean, after all, the lone oak was a landmark, right? You want to go to Loversville, turn right at the lone oak tree. You want to go to Mayfield, go past the lone oak tree. It was a landmark. And so why not name the community after a landmark which everybody already knew anyway? So that's what he did. Now, that was in 1900. It became Lone Oak officially from Pepper's Mill. People still called it Pepper's Mill for a while, though. But 3 years later, the big, massive lone oak tree, which Doc Potts said at that time was 3.5 feet thick at the trunk. So it was an old tree. It was getting in bad shape. The insects had gotten a hold of it. It was starting to rot. Branches started falling in the road. So the community decided to cut it down, which they did. And then Doc Potts and a few of his friends decided it would be interesting to set it on fire on Christmas Day or Christmas night. So in 1903, Christmas night, the whole community gathered around for a big bonfire of the poor lone oak tree. It aches my heart to think that nobody saved a piece of it to show the community's named after it. And they didn't save a piece of it, unless somebody has a piece somewhere that you're hoarding somewhere. That'd be interesting to find out. Mr. Tim, never mind, it's back. Now, I did some research on the newspapers, and I came up with these 2 articles. I love these 2 articles. First, we'll talk about the post office. First of all, it says no post office. But this was in 1898. 2 years before the post office actually came. But it's interesting because it says here, no post office has been established at Pepper's Mill, as stated by Contemporary yesterday. The preliminary papers have been taken out by Mr. Potts of that place, but this signifies nothing. He desires to establish a post office there under the name of Lone Oaks. But no action has been taken on it. Now I think maybe it's either a printing mistake or he decided to name it after both Lone Oaks. You know, the one by Hardees and this one. I don't know. I can't read his mind. His mind is long gone, as mine is just about too. Now, the other article I found was an interesting one called On a Boom. I'm going to have to get where I can see it in front of it here. This is taken from 1901 Paducah Sun, or whatever it was called back then. And it says, Pepper's Mill, better known as Lone Oak, by this time it was already Lone Oak by a year, is on a boom and will see a thriving little city. Well, maybe not city, but anyway. A new brick church is being built and also a new college. There are several large business houses going up and several new residences are underway. 8 lots were sold this week. And the buyers will begin to build immediately. One big tobacco man, that was J.J. Sanderson, is building a big brick tobacco house, and several new manufacturing houses will shortly be erected. So Lone Oak was on a boom. And it was. Now, these are some of the founding families of Lone Oak, actually Pepper's Mill at the time, the families that eventually came after Pepper family. So the families of W.T. Pepper, J.J. Sanderson, J.C. Alcock, and my daughter married an Alcock, Dr. Alcock, J.T. Woods, who ran a store, and Potts, Doc Potts family. Now, the road to Lone Oak from Paducah, which we travel a lot today, originally that was the first paved road in McCracken County.
How far was Lone Oak from?
It's about 3 miles or so. I think that's what they said. I think it was 2.7 or maybe 3.75 miles, because they wanted to get a trolley to come that way too. They almost had it, but when you think of it, don't you have to go up a pretty steep hill to get up here? And that wouldn't be good for a trolley to do that. They were thinking about going around another way though, but it was going to be too far and too costly. But this road was interesting. It was concrete, but not all of it. It had 2 tracks of concrete, and in the middle was dirt. Now, why do you think that? Why do you think 2 tracks of concrete? That's where what went? The wheels, the wagon wheels, right? And the horse had to have some traction. So they put dirt, which could be mud, but it was dirt anyway, to give it some traction. But that was the first paved road. Now, you probably are familiar with this memorial over here, show where the Lone Oak was actually standing at one time on the corner of Lovelaceville Road and Lone Oak Road. And when I show that to the children, they all know that. Well, one child said, "Oh, I know where that gravestone is." I said, "No, it's not a gravestone, although we may have buried Pepper's Mill, but, you know." Now, the post office I was telling you about with Doc Potts was located right here where the Quick Lube is, right across from Wendy's, okay? Food, you know, Wendy's, okay. So, you can plainly see why when he was sitting there in his store, looking right across the road, because there's that monument there, that's where he saw the Lone Oak tree and came that great idea without having to get up out of his chair. Now, this is an interesting story that Mr. Bertram told me. Here was the original post office, and there's a little picture of part of it over there. They moved the post office building by logs underneath it, all the way down here to Lansing, to this house. And without this little addition on here, this was the original post office, and Mr. Bertram was born in that house. Now that tells you the connections we have here tonight. All right? Interesting place. Now, we're going to talk about what Lone Oak was like then and compare it to now. This really floors the kids because they can't understand that there was something else there before. We're going to start by going up Lone Oak Road past Mount Kenton. And first thing you might notice is the Travelers was Dentons. I'm still calling it Dentons, Travelers Inn. But back in the 20s, it was operated by a name of Cecil Smith, and he called it his tourist cabins back then. Same location, but a little different there. Now, this really gets them. When I show this place, and of course I have to say, you know, where Los Amigos and Chong's is, food again, they get it. All right? And I said, you know, at one time in my life, oh, excuse me, Mr. Hensel's lifetime, not Dr. Pepper's, there was a Paducah drive-in there, and they couldn't believe that. And at first, they didn't even think it looked like a drive-in. But I said, yeah, it was a real fancy drive-in we had. I said, and it went all the way back there, and even towards where Banks is now, in that area. Now, right across from the drive-in, or excuse me, the marketplace, where U.S. Bank is, was located this Texaco Garage, the Vaughn and McKinney Texaco station. Now, I love to tell this story to the kids. They can really connect with it. Right next to the gas station, there was you know where the credit union is now? Right next to Goodwill. Right? There was a big open field there. And the first thing I say to the kids is, how many of you have ever seen The Sandlot? Well, they know what I'm talking about, right? How many of you have ever seen The Sandlot? Aha, okay. Well, what did the kids do there? Play baseball, right? You've seen it then, okay. Yeah. Well, back in the maybe late 20s, 30s, and part of 40s, that was the place for all the local kids to go and play baseball. They got so good at it that their parents wanted to see more of it. So the parents decided, rather than sitting on the ground, they didn't have folding chairs like we have now, they decided to build bleachers. So they built these bleachers up there, and they were watching their kids, and all of a sudden up comes this farmer. What are you doing on my property? This is my property, it's not your property. Get those bleachers down. Well, they had to take the bleachers down. But he allowed the kids to keep on playing there. That didn't interfere too much, but I don't blame him on that. Not asking like that. Okay, we're going to go down the road a little bit more now. And now, you recognize this T-Mobile place? That's one of two buildings that I've been able to find, and there's probably more, but these are the ones I've been able to find, which were around 100 years ago. You can see the connection. There it is, Jack Wood's Volunteer Store in 1912, and here it is today. Same shape, doors in the same place, but quite a bit different. It also became later on Bill Gore's original IGA, and same thing with Boyd's. It was the original Boyds Supermarket there first before it moved on to where Hanks is now and so forth. And it was also Purchase Hardware in the 1950s. Does anybody remember any of those things at all? Yes. Maybe? Some of them you do? Okay, yeah. All right, now, almost right next to it, there's an empty lot, and right next to it, you see this building, which I call it the Culligan Building now, right? But it was Sanderson's General Merchandise. Now, I want Miss Edwards, would you tell, where's she? There you are. Would you tell a little bit about that?
Actually, the other one was my grandfather's.
Oh, the other one, excuse me.
My grandfather's.
There, that one, okay.
He had it in 35.
1935. Her grandfather ran that. Grandparents ran that.
Curtis purchased.
Curtis.
My great-grandfather.
Wow. Still around.
And they sold it in 1979.
Sold it in 79. It's gone through a lot of changes. I know it was like a UPS or something like that at one time, and other things. Sold. Well, it's a Selden now. But it's gone through a lot of changes.
I worked at the Sanderson's store there. Started in, Dwayne Boyd bought it January of 1960, and I started in June and worked for him through 1967.
Wow.
They were Sanderson's, then Goers, then Boyd's.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can see, I mean, whoops, sorry. Let me go back here a minute. You can see that it had a porch or a roof on it there, but, oh, I'm on the wrong one. I'm sorry here. There we are. It had an awning over here.
I worked for Lone Oak Road was 4-lane, and we had a front porch, and that's where we set the merchandise.
That's just what I was going to say. Probably because it was 2-lane then. They didn't expand it where it's almost up to the door now. That's right. Now you know where we are. You know where we're located right now? Well,
is the car that's parked on the road, is that the Lone Oak Road?
Yes.
Yes, that's Lone Oak Road. Mm-hmm.
2-lane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could actually park on Lone Oak Road because it was 2-lane then. Now, this next picture, all right, you know where the connecting point is, right here. You know this road that goes up here? You should know it, you're on it. Cumberland comes right up past the school here. And then this, of course, is, I get my north and south mixed up. Which one is it, north or south Friendship? North Friendship, right here, okay. Now, back in the day, it was the Lone Oak Garage, and see this little dirt path going up there? That's Cumberland, that comes up here. And I think a lot of you probably still remember this building back here, which was the City Hall at one time. And I think the fire station. And the fire station also was operated over, Mr. Bertram, wasn't it over here in the Lone Oak Garage? Yeah, in the garage, right. It was in the garage. So a lot of changes have taken place. Look, City Hall's all gone there now. CBS has taken over everything. Now, Friendship Baptist Church. Don't get it confused with the Friendship Baptist Church, which is across the street from this. Right? This church was located where, another food thing, Hardees is located. Same place where the second Lone Oak Tree is. All right, so that's Friendship Baptist Church, the congregation of it back in the day. And I often wondered, maybe somebody can help me on this, you know, it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, which came first, Friendship Road or Friendship Baptist? Was Friendship Baptist named after the road, or was the road named after the Baptist church? I don't know. Does anybody know anything about that? No? Okay, well, I'll try to delve a little bit further on that. Now, the hub of Lone Oak is this center right here. Is Lone Oak Road, North Friendship, Cumberland. You can even see Lone Oak Intermediate way up here. So it shows you then and now. The Culligan's place, which is right here. There was Sanderson's. Here's Friendship Baptist today. Kentucky Western College was there then. Here's Friendship Baptist then, where Hardees is located. And the second Lone Oak Tree, right in the corner where Hardees is located. And then, of course, the connecting point over here looked like that. So next time you go by that crossroads there, think about the different things that were there at different times. They may not have all been there at the same time, but they were there at one time or another. Now, everyone knows Darriette. See, there's another food place. And Darriette, at one time, was a walk-up. As you probably know, you couldn't sit down in it. And first thing I do when the kids say, they say, oh, they sold gas. I said, no, that's the gas station that was across the street where Hardees is now, later on. Right? And, of course, here is Darriette today. And there you can see the new Friendship Baptist Church, which was the old Methodist Church, which was the new Methodist Church that had moved there from the old Methodist Church across the street. Did I get you confused? All right. Now, showing this, Hardees, you've got Friendship Baptist Church, which was there, and the Lone Oak Tree. You've got the Shell gas station, which was there, and you can see Darriette way off here. And then you have this Tiffany Square, which they had the speed shop and other things there. I think that was about in the 1980s or so it's not too long ago. But all of these things were there before Hardees, BH, before Hardees. Now, where CBS is now, and I'm not claiming all these buildings were there at the same time, but all these buildings were occupying that space where CBS is now. We had Dr. Craig's drugstore, which is kind of ironic because a drugstore replaced a drugstore. Gas station here, I don't know whose gas station it was. Pardon? Okay, Hayden. Okay, yeah, okay. And then Nichols Barbershop. I don't know how long that was there, but they were all there at different times. And way before CVS and way before, what was it, Lone Oak Pharmacy was there and in that spot and other things like that. Yeah, that was later on though. Yeah. Yeah, it was like a little strip mall, right. Now, I tell you, there must have been a lot of gas in Lone Oak, and I'm not talking about eating at Adrian's or something, but we had a lot of gas stations. Everybody remembers Adrian's, right? Yeah, of course. Now, there's a Regions Bank. You can see this is the Church of Christ over here, and a little bit of Friendship Baptist over there. It was a E.R. Taylor and Son, they called it the Good Gulf Station in the 1930s. And apparently it was used as a temporary fire station also at one time. And now Regions Bank occupies that spot. Now, a lot of you know Lone Oak Baptist Church, and you probably know more than I do about it. But anyway, back in the day, 1926, this was Lone Oak Baptist, which was located originally in that corner. Dr. Gore had a house, didn't he, Mr. Bertram? Yeah, a little lot down, yeah, but in that area, right. And then, of course, now there's a gas station about right here. And I told the kids, right across from the parlor, another food place, they get it, yep. And because I'd said, everybody know where Hank's True Value is. I said, okay, do you know where the parlor is? Oh, yeah, then they get it, yeah. Then 1956, a big expansion took place. Unfortunately, in 1966, I think it's the curse of the sixes, 666 here. Big, what happened? I burned, another fire. That's when the kids keep on rolling. What, another fire? Yep, another fire. So they decided to move out and expand. They couldn't have expanded much on that lot. So they moved down the road, and boy, did they expand and expand and expand. So that's what it looks like today. Now, 1885, there was a feed mill constructed where Vaughn, I said Vaughn Auto Parts, and the kids didn't know that, so I said, where they sell seafood. Yeah. Oh, yeah, they get it now. That brick building where they sell seafood. Now, Vaughn's is still in the back, isn't it? Some Vaughn's. But anyway, then in 1910, a new feed mill was built, and later on, it became known as Lone Oak Farm Store. I remember it as being red, because it was red the last years of it, but apparently it wasn't always red, unless that's faded. And then now it's Independence Bank. Now we're almost to Lovelessville Road. This is the beautiful home of J.J. Sanderson. Look how gorgeous that home was. And look what's there today. Right next to Wendy's. Yep. In this lot right here. Somehow I thought that that looked a little bit better than this strip mall over here. I can see putting the tower in the back, the water tower, but no, replace it with a strip mall. And then how many people knew about this in Smithson's, yeah, on the corner of Lovelessville Road and Lone Oak Road right here. Smithson's was there. And then I think down a little bit more was the dairy barn. And is that location about right? Down a little bit more? Yeah, all right. I had a hard time coming up with this. Somebody from the internet helped me find dairy barn. This is actually a painting of it. And then today, Durbin Service. And you see, again, I call it Meyers Lumber, whatever that was, where W.T.'s house was right there. Now, Lone Oak really took to growing in 1937, because what happened in 1930 and 37 in Paducah? The big flood, right? After that, boy, what? You were, oh, okay. And people, because of that flood, said, I'm getting the heck out of here. And a lot of people came when they were displaced. They came up to Lone Oak, to people that they knew or relatives or whatever, and they stayed there. I think a lot of people got the idea then, hey, it's better to be on safe high ground. So Lone Oak started growing after that. Now, because it was dry ground, it became the largest community other than that other little one we call Paducah, I think, yeah. But anyway, this is what happened with Pepper's Mill, from a little community starting with just a mill to where we are today. And who knows what else might happen in the future with Pepper's Mill. Thank you.